Hey there, friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and today I want to talk about builds in the First Descendant and some common mistakes I see players making. Now, I am a gamer who does enjoy the public matchmaking option, jumping into hard mode void intercept battles as well as hard mode missions, and the biggest frustration that I see and the thing that causes other players to leave the most is constantly getting downed, and that is something that can be hugely detrimental for several reasons. Now, if you're running a solo void intercept colossi, then oftentimes you can melt it down really quickly before you have to worry about your survivability. Plus, you can essentially take a death in order to reset your ultimate ability as well. And that makes a lot of sense. But when you are playing in a group, oftentimes what will happen is one player will get knocked, and then another player will go to revive them, then a second player gets knocked, and it essentially creates this snowball effect. So when you are playing in a group, whether it's public matchmaking or in a preset group, you really want to make sure you have some sort of survivability. Increase your HP, increase your defense, and make sure that you are aware of where some of the heal packs are on the ground as well. I think that's very, very important. As far as the builds, I think this comes in play because a lot of people love their glass cannons. They want to do as much DPS as possible. We see these insane thumbnails of players and YouTubers and everyone who have these insane builds that can absolutely melt bosses. And oftentimes you'll see that either solo or in a group with people who also have really good builds. But when you are doing the public matchmaking, the worst thing you can do is get down constantly. You only have three times that you can respawn in these public matchmaking void intercept battles, and if you start wasting them early, it essentially guarantees a fail because one slip up by another player and the run could be chalked. And I think this is a common issue because I do see it quite often. It feels like every other run when I am playing this void intercept battles on public matchmaking, I will have to run around and try to revive people. Now, everyone complains about Bunny being too squishy and her getting down all the time, and that absolutely can be true. Once again, if you aren't building in some of those resistances, it's hard at times with her because you have to play a little bit more up close, but understanding that you need to survive in order to keep going makes a massive difference. Now, some things that you can do to fix this is lean into mods that have increasing HP, but also skill power, skill cooldown, and that kind of stuff. Do a combination of defense and skill cooldown or skill power. And these kind of combinations will be very, very important because while you won't be maximizing your damage, that damage doesn't matter if you're using all of your revives in a particular activity. And that's something that can be incredibly frustrating. Also, keep in mind what void intercept battle you are running. If you have a void intercept boss that is very strong against your element, you don't want to be spamming. For example, if you are playing against the Swamp Walker and you're using Freyna, you don't want to be using your ultimate the whole time because it's really likely not going to do a lot of damage unless you have an insane build. And then again, you're probably going to be a glass cannon. Whereas if you really focus on your weapon damage, you're going to do a bit more and it's going to work out a lot better. So I think these are some common things that I see. And even in the hard mode missions, oftentimes players will run through, they'll get knocked, they'll revive without letting you, they'll respawn without letting you revive them, and it just causes a lot of problems and ultimately will lead to wipes. And that's something that can be incredibly frustrating. I had an instance where I was doing a void intercept battle and we were 75% done. We had done all of the shield and then we had the boss at about 25% health. But one of our players got knocked 10 times in that battle. And so every time we had to revive them, sometimes they were either in the magma on the floor or whatever the case may be, or they were sitting in the swamp, the toxic, and so they would essentially just die because we were unable to res them. And then they did that several times. So we had 5 minutes left on the clock in order to beat this boss, but this player kept dying and it led to us failing the mission. And that was incredibly frustrating. It's something that, again, I wouldn't have made this video if I didn't see it so many different times. I do feel like when you are leaning into your build, don't necessarily trust the build that you are being suggested if you're following someone else's lead, depending on the type of content you're taking on. If you are playing solo hard mode Colossi, a glass cannon build should be very, very effective. If you're playing in a pre-made group and you have players who can help keep you alive or distract the boss while you are dishing out a ton of damage, or you can melt the boss quickly enough, then I think that is something that you can absolutely go ahead with. But if you jump into a void intercept battle and you're constantly getting down and you're doing good damage, but you might want to sacrifice some of that damage and increase your survivability, think about doing so for that particular activity. Whereas when you're in the open world, it doesn't matter as much. When you're doing the hard mode missions, maybe it doesn't matter as much. And also, something to keep in mind is that when you are tackling the hard mode missions, there are often going to be times where you are needing that survivability as well. Because there's nothing worse than taking a boss down to about half health or whatever the case, going through multiple phases, and then the squad wipes and you have to do it all over again. Again, players leave all the time because of that, and it's incredibly annoying. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Is this a common thing that you guys are seeing as well? Do you play solo or do you play in a group? I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments down below. My name is Jopa. If you want to see more of the First Descendant content from me, I might make some builds and show off some of mine in the near future. I just feel like at this point, there's a lot of them out there, and a lot of the builds are going to be situational, more situational than I think people give it credit for. Anyway, my name is Jopa. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.